The worsening climate crisis has led to a spike in what is called eco-anxiety or climate anxiety, which the American Psychological Association defines as the chronic fear of environmental doom. This anxiety can look like existential fear or guilt or shame, hopelessness, nihilism, and plenty of other emotions, because we see the rainforest burning, we see Antarctica melting, and all of these other huge problems that feel out of our control. A survey from this year found that 78% of Gen Zers don't want to have kids because of the future of climate change. And 71% of millennials have said that climate change has negatively impacted their mental health. It's real, y'all. Now, most people who talk about eco-anxiety are privileged, middle-class white folks. And if you're like me, your feelings are totally valid. I'm not trying to belittle anyone's emotions and fears about climate change because they're all so valid. I do want to say, though, that eco-anxiety is an even bigger threat to folks who are experiencing the effects of climate change firsthand. And these are often low-income and BIPOC communities. If you yourself have experienced or are experiencing eco-anxiety, stick around to the end and I'll share some of the things that have helped me. But I'm not a medical professional, so if you really are experiencing some serious mental health issues and you're able to, please go find someone who is in the professional medical field. So we know that a myriad of health problems can be caused by climate change, but we're learning more and more about the mental effects of climate change, especially in vulnerable populations like poor and BIPOC communities. Climate change exposes these people to very real trauma. Some trauma occurs directly due to extreme weather events like hurricanes, floods, extreme heat, earthquakes, because extreme weather can have a huge impact on the agriculture and landscape of a particular area. So for communities who use that agriculture as their main source of income, this can just devastate their economy. After an economic fall, these communities can face isolation, loss of livelihoods, poverty, alienation, grief, displacement, and a lot of these people can experience a lot of increased anxiety and depression as well. And the more powerful the weather event and more often it happens, the more damage is done to the mental health of the people in these communities. So I often feel a lot of anxiety about climate change and the future of our world, but it is an entirely different experience to the marginalized communities and folks who are dealing with the effects of climate change on such a present and immediate level. Other mental health effects can happen because of the physical health problems that climate change causes. The World Health Organization says that extreme heat, which can then cause fires, can cause cardiovascular disease, asthma, heat exhaustion, respiratory problems from inhaling smoke, and these physical problems can then have an impact on one's mental health. What's more is if these problems cause loved ones to get sick and die, that can really impact someone's mental health as well. There are so many ways that climate change affects one's mental health that if I talked about all of them, this video would probably be an hour long. Fortunately, eco-anxiety has become a lot more well-known in recent years, and a lot of therapists are here to help. There's the Climate Psychology Alliance and Climate Psychiatry Alliance, both of which I'll link below. They both have a lot of resources, a lot of free resources if you want to check them out. And there are professionals who can help folks who are dealing with the fear, the dread, the anxiety, the worries about how leadership is handling or not handling the climate crisis and other climate change related mental health issues. I need to point out, however, that a lot of these professionals have said that their clientele is mostly white, middle-class, educated folks. Climate change far out-threatens BIPOC communities, and environmental racism occurs in so many different facets. But unfortunately, there are a lot of barriers for folks of color in finding the mental health care that they need. The stigma surrounding mental health is a huge barrier, but also the fear of discriminatory practices within the health field which are entirely valid considering the history of racist practices in the medical field and the mistreatment that Black and other folks of color have faced from medical professionals. Plus, mental health care is expensive and it's not always covered by insurance, and this makes it difficult for any low-income folks to receive the help that they need. Now, I know this is a really heavy topic and I definitely don't have all the answers, but I just wanted to end it on a little bit more positive note and talk about some of the coping things that I've used to deal with when I feel a lot of anxiety, especially about the planet. The first thing I've done is obviously aligned my lifestyle more with my values. A lot of that has to do with being conscious of all the resources I am using and where they're going to end up. But I also have to keep in mind that I will never, no matter how hard I try, I can never be zero waste. None of us can do everything. And know that and realize that that is okay. But many of us can do a lot of little things that cumulatively can have a large impact. Another thing I've done is look for community. This includes joining Facebook groups, looking for other YouTube communities that talk about these same principles that I'm interested in. Or maybe you're more of an in-person person and you want to get your neighborhood together to organize a trash cleanup on your street. As introverted as I am, I know that community is very important and can make me feel less alone in the anxiety I feel. If you're in a place of privilege and can donate your time, money, or resources to an organization, find one that is looking for relief and finding resources for the folks who are on the front lines of climate change. There's the People's Climate Movement, the Rainforest Foundation US, the Climate Justice Alliance, and others that have been centering the fight around the folks who are most marginalized and most affected by climate change. This last tip is also inherently privileged, but it's to know when you need to take a step back. Again, some people can't, and their daily lives are in direct effect of climate change. But if you are able to take a break from reading headlines, sometimes I just have to go for a walk and be out in nature, or sometimes I will exercise, get my blood pumping a bit, or cook a nice meal, or just read something I enjoy just to stop my negative cyclical thinking for just a bit so I can come back and fight for climate justice. Thanks y'all for watching. I find this incredibly important to talk about. I've always been interested in both mental health and climate justice, and there's a lot of overlap, y'all. So thanks for sticking with me. Please give this video a like so other folks can see it, and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you next time.